The DRC has 5.6 million internally displaced people, along with over 4 million others seeking refuge in the eastern province of South Kivu and North Kivu, according to the UNHCR. Women in those regions say that they try to forget everything they left behind and calming their thoughts to cope with their anguish and to deal with a mental health crisis that they face every single day. Today, we zoom in on the impact on the current security instability in the eastern DRC which has brought women and girls into an unstable situation, and what available resources and solutions there are there to be able to cope with mental suffering that they're going through. Hello, everyone. I'm Oriani Tangishaka, and this is Our Voices. Welcome to today's show. I'm joined by my colleagues Semenesia Koye and Jeannie Niwa. Hello, ladies. Let me begin with just going straight into what do you think, especially Jeannie, you're from that region, originally from that country. What goes through your mind and what's going on right now?
Every day we're asking, okay, what's going on now? This war is called the silent war for a reason. We've seen it all the images, all the cries, the alarm, and yet nothing is being done. So it's a lot of anxiety, I want to say.
I mean, I feel you. What's happening in Congo is just heartbreaking, and sadly, women and children are caught in this crossfire. And this is not for the first time. This has been going on for years. Rape has been used as a weapon of war. Women have been, being displaced with their children, and most of them are living for years in overcrowded camps with no adequate water or food. So I can't even imagine the traumatic situation they live in.
Yes, correct.
Last year, in 2024, there were about 800,000 people living in refugee camps near DRC city of Goma. Medical officials working in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo said many were suffering from mental health issues. The medical group Médecins Sans Frontières were doing all it could to help. VOA's Zanam Nate Zaidi provided this report.
At Shabindu camp outside Goma, Médecins Sans Frontières, or MSF, has set up tents where dozens of displaced persons are being processed. They can also participate in listening sessions with psychologists. Rose has been receiving care for depression. She blames the war for her mental state, but says her journey to recovery has begun.
When someone flees war, they are very disturbed, and that was my case too. But here we have been taught how to forget everything we've left behind and how to calm our thoughts.
Rose is not alone. According to MSF, living in camps around Goma is a challenging environment for the hundreds of thousands of displaced people, especially women. Every day, medical staff say about 70 female survivors of sexual assault visit the 6 MSF health facilities in camps near Goma. Faustin Hakizimana is the head of Bulengo camp. He says the need for psychosocial support is more urgent than ever.
When we looked into the real problem, we found out that many have been disturbed by the horrors of war and others have been raped when they look for wood in the forests, which is why so many women here suffer of mental illness.
Gerlas Mulekia, a clinical psychologist with Médecins Sans Frontières at the Lushagala camp, says more help is needed.
Most of the people we see show signs of anxiety and post-traumatic problems. We run 3 group sessions a day, and each group is made up of 10 people, for a total of 30 people a day. If it goes on like this, we'll need to expand the activities to try and meet as many of the needs as possible.
Psychosocial care is available to both genders, but officials say most of the people taking advantage of the services are women whose mental health challenges are impacting their ability to care for their children. Zanem Zaidi, VOA News, Goma.
So to hear a bit about the mental state of many of the women and girls in the war zones of Goma and what can be done to help their conditions, we've invited Ms. Natalia Torrent, Médecins Sans Frontières, also known as Doctor Without Borders, Chief of Program Manager in North Kivu region of the DRC. Ms. Torrent, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have Ms. Torrent. We just reminded our viewers in the last story of what the situation was like last year on women's mental health in Goma. But let's take a very brief look at what is the current situation now, and then we'll discuss further. The war in eastern Congo persists. Our colleague Salman filed this report on the impact of conflict on civilians, on how many families are constantly being forced to flee their homes, with many seeking refuge in neighboring countries as the humanitarian crisis worsens. Let's take a look and we'll be right back.
Gunshots echo through Goma, one of the largest cities in the Democratic Republic of Congo, as terrified civilians scramble for safety. The city and its surrounding regions are the latest epicenter of a conflict between the Congolese army and the Rwanda-backed M23 rebel group, although Kigali denies its support for the group. This increase in violence has displaced thousands of people and prompted urgent regional diplomatic efforts led by the current chair of the East African Community, Kenyan President William Ruto, to address the crisis.
And we are all in agreement that now more than ever, it is an existential issue, not just for the people of Eastern DRC, but for this region. The situation in Eastern DRC now demands our collective focus.
The conflict is part of a broader war in Eastern DRC, where more than 120 militants and armed groups operate, often competing for control of the area's rich mines. North Kivu province, a long-standing flashpoint, has seen a surge in fighting, forcing people like Lomu Biondo Manuel to flee repeatedly.
We face a lot of hardships. We want to go back to our original homes. We want peace.
Another woman fleeing Mugwanga, one of the largest camps for displaced people near Goma, says civilians are caught in the crossfire.
We have nothing to give to our children that we are running with. We are just fleeing with nothing. It's all in God's hands. All we can do is run.
The United Nations says more than 5.5 million people are displaced in the DRC, many of them in North Kivu. Humanitarian organizations warn that the situation is deteriorating rapidly. Aid delivery has been disrupted by blocking routes and increased violence, leaving many without basic needs, says Save the Children's country director Greg Ram.
This upsurge in fighting has killed children. Children have been caught up in it, killed through explosions. In addition, hundreds of thousands, 200,000 children displaced from where they're living, some displaced for a second and third time.
Humanitarian agencies say the needs far outweigh the available resources, and displacement isn't the only issue that children, women, and girls face in displacement camps, Ram says.
Sexual violence against women, girls, children is a serious problem. Rape is a weapon of war. Displaced people's camps can be terribly unsafe places. The numbers are overwhelming. And for each person we can help, and that the rest of the humanitarian community can help, we know that there are tens of others who are not getting the assistance they need today.
Despite calls for the UN and East African leaders for a ceasefire, the violence continues, leaving millions in limbo. Salim Solomon, VOA News.
Ms. Torrent, let's come back to you. So what is the state of women and girls in the DRC at the moment, and how many are there in the care of MSF at this moment?
Well, unfortunately, the situation in Goma, it's not new. I mean, we have been seeing that women and girls has been suffering from sexual violence since the years and since the time they have settled in the camps, because there are many factors that are exposing them to that situation. When we are in front of a survivor of LGBB, obviously it's what the teams are trying to do for them, it's to provide them a medical package, because especially we can take care of the medical consequences of that act, but as well we're trying to support them mentally. But it's true that after a trauma, each of us and each individual, they can manage it in a different way. What we aim with this mental health support is that they're able to regain the functionality in their life and to be able to join the communities that they are. But the main issue that we have, and especially on the mental health journey, is that unfortunately they're going to be again bound on the same environment that has caused the event, because the social services and the capacity that they may have to go and to get away from the perpetrator or from the situation that has led them to be survivors of LGBTI, it's very complex to be tackled.
And you also touch on medical care and medical package. Is there any other services or other that they have access?
Well, that's one of the main problems that we're seeing in the camps, because Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, we have several clinics, so we're able to tackle the medical care, the medical package to these survivors, and as well to provide certain degree of mental health support. But the main concern, the main challenge that we have is that obviously to deal with this type of situation, you need a holistic approach. You need a holistic approach including social support, legal support in some of the cases, and especially the social support should be going to either tackle the issues or the root causes that has made them suffer this event. For example, the lack of livelihood activities, the fact that they have to wander out of the camps to search for food to be sold and they're exposing themselves, things like that. And we see that these social kind of packages, services are not there. Or for example, somebody who has been a survivor of an LGBT within their circle to be able to go to a safe house, to be able to reallocate somewhere else. This type of services, unfortunately, they are not widely present in the camps to be able to provide that. Legal services neither. So the fact is that the MSF were trying to provide the first aid, let's say the first support, which is the medical, especially to avoid medical complications that can be very quickly and very easily spared. But the rest of the elements for especially ensuring that this person regain the quality of life, regain the control of their life, are not there.
Yes, these services and available resources are so key. Now, what have been some lessons learned in providing, mental health over the years in that region? And is there a hope in this regards, knowing very well that post-traumatic stress disorder is something that we may need to look into in the very near future?
Indeed, and it's very challenging because unfortunately the main issue that we're facing is the capacity of finding resources and the capacity of finding as well professionals to be able to provide these services. And as you may assume, each of us are different, and some of these experience of some of this work has to be gone. Has to be done with a long-term kind of a process that unfortunately the majority of the people cannot afford, or because there is not available, or because they simply cannot afford. And we also are in a society, especially in the eastern part of Congo, that has been living in a conflict situation for the last 30 years. So individuals may have suffered a lot of trauma, but we may say that as well. It's a very traumatic, a general traumatized society, which it's not making the things easier either to find a kind of a common healing.
Ms. Torrent, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stay safe and thanks again. Natalia Torrent is the head of programs for MSF in North Kivu. Let's now take a quick break, and when we return, we will talk to women who are working closely with women on the ground and trying to help them cope with and heal from the trauma they are going through. Share your thoughts on this subject on our social media platforms at VOA Africa. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and X, and use the hashtag VOA Our Voices. Stay with us and we'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Moudou, in Washington every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
You're with Our Voices. Welcome back. We're discussing the mental effects on the ongoing war in the Eastern DRC on women and girls, available resources, and how they're trying to cope every day. Now in studios, we have with us Esther Bitijula, a graduating student in psychology and social work at the Luther College here in the United States. She's very active in trying to bring mental health care solutions for women and girls in the Eastern DRC. And also with us, we have Ms. Neema Namadamu, Director of Hero Women Rising NGO in South Kivu, who is also doing women empowerment work in that region. Welcome, Ms. Neema, and also Esther, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, it is before we dive into our conversation, let's hear from some women in the DRC about their mental ordeal in our Your Voice segment, and then we'll be right back.
Since we left Masisi, we've lived a very difficult life of having our houses set on fire, being displaced. Many people lost their lives, but we survived. And by God's grace, we arrived at my son's house and were able to rest. When the camps opened up, we realized we couldn't continue to be a burden on him due to the lack of food. So we left and went to live in makeshift refugee camps in town, where we spent over 2 years. During that time, houses were built for us in the camps. But now, suddenly, when the war came to Goma, our campsite was all destroyed. So we all fled once again. We then came back here at my son's house. Everything we had in the camp has been stolen. We're suffering enormously. The children constantly fall ill, and I recently fell down and my hand got badly injured. We live in despair. We have no food. We don't have anything, just a life of suffering.
We heard bombs from Kubumba. They just started exploding. Then we fled with the children. While escaping, we encountered enormous difficulties on the way. We later learned that our houses were looted and destroyed, and that even doors were ripped off. We only had managed to take a few clothes. We couldn't manage to take much with us as we ran. Here, we are 4 refugee households in this host family. Imagine all 4 households having only these few belongings. It's really sad, and now, to even find something to eat is very difficult.
Leaving our village of Kingi, going upwards towards those other villages, we arrived where the market used to be, down in the valley. If you are familiar with it, there are many armed men gathered there. Everyone was forced to put their belongings on the ground and leave. You just execute the order to avoid being killed and walk away, leaving all of them. Whether they sold it or did what with it, we don't know. As we left Sake going towards Magangwa district, we were subjected to the same exercise. This time we ran into many thieves, recognizing even one young man whom I was familiar with. But I was fearful because he had a weapon, and if you would hesitate to grab some items, then he sees what you have, which you have suffered to be able to purchase. He would tell you to put it down. You get scared and put everything down and walk away, continuing the journey with your children. Once in Magunga, we were forced to look for wood in the fields and sell it in order to buy tarpaulin to cover the huts at the church and school grounds that we're staying at. So there, you just make shelter and live in it.
Wow, very touching. I want to start with you, Miss Nima. You are on the ground in South Kivu. Can you tell us about the atmosphere since the siege of M23 on the city of Goma? Have you been able to continue to do your empowerment work with them?
Good evening here in South Kivu province. Good morning to you guys, the Voice of America. My name is Neema Namadamu. I'm from DRC Congo, and I work in town Bukavu. Right now, atmosphere, I'm not in Goma, but in Bukavu. After M23 took town North Kivu, everyone, authorities, military, many people fled to Bukavu. Is really full people, and that is the atmosphere. Is many people, many military, many authorities. Is really full town, and the people they are fear, and we don't know how to communicate. We don't know how to ask for help. But we are there. We are waiting for maybe they say M23 is in way to Bukavu. That we are on the mode waiting, fear, and no communication.
Let's turn here to Esther. You have done a lot of groundwork focused on women with disabilities and mental health. So tell us, does these two challenges often go together in the region because of the constant war?
Yes, thank you so much for the question. Yes, I believe that these challenges really go together and they interconnect in the context of like the ongoing war in the DRC Congo. And just again, as we can see that to some extent conflicts can increase disability and mental health also conditions to people. And as we can see, many women are often like, up to disabilities, and also because of like war related, maybe just sexual violence and also inadequate medical care. So, and then also those physical impairments often leads to marginalization of women in the community, and which makes them vulnerable to psychological distress in our communities, yes.
Right. Now, can you tell us, you're studying mental health here in the United States. Can you tell us some of the perhaps proposed solutions that you're hoping to bring back when you do go back to that war zone and hoping to bring some solutions for women? What should be some of the first steps to helping them?
Yes, thank you so much. One of the first things I think about is mostly to look at it from a holistic approach and understanding where the conflict is coming from. And while I'm talking about that, we can all think about implementing some kind of like trauma-informed community, where we can call the community to understand what it is we like to live with trauma, and understand, and that should be implemented in the structured, like, communities such as hospitals, churches, or maybe NGOs that are there to help women. All those implementation would be very useful, and just again looking at how we can have mental first aid, and then also understanding how we can bring the platform like this one where we can break the marginalization about women who are living with the trauma.
Right. I'm going to turn to Ms. Nima one more time. As you help women and girls in this tough time, what is your message to them?
To them, we still have hope because we still have women. And when we work, we are in a grassroots organization. I host the STER project when she come from United States to my office to work with women with disabilities. That hope is really, we are in South Kivu province or in the DRC in general, doing intergenerational trauma. It's taking so long. And you can see how women, they are not able to communicate. They have like a shame. When women they are raped, it's like excluded in families. And when he is married, the husband is rejecting them. That is big issues and the trauma and the shame, no communication, no self-esteem. That is there we are fighting with. And especially because I told Esther, I say, my dear, women with disabilities, they are violent double, because the women with disabilities, they can't move, they can't run away. That is my everyday fighting with this, because myself, I'm a woman with disabilities. That is what we are doing. And every day I told them, no worries, we are a human being. Let's see if this decision maker, men who have guns and target women and girls. This is a really horrible situation. Last 2 days ago, we have girl, 15 years. She went to look for water with jerrycans, and FRDC, they tried to rape her. She refused. When she was going to run away, they put guns on his back. And now she's in the hospital. But it's really traumatic, the situation we are in. It's a horrible situation, because in the world, every group, rebels or group, they are targeting communities, and you can't separating community with women and kids. And that is where all women, they are on like front line, military or government military, and the rebels, they target, they put like umbrella community and women. That is where we are. The situation is not easy, but I'm continue to tell them, please have hope. We're still living. We are only waiting to see who is going to
Thank you
take
so
it
much, Ms. Neema. That definitely, they have to have hope, and having women like you guys doing the work that you're doing may give them a little bit of more hope. Well, that is our show for today. We just want to thank our guests, Natalia Torrent, MSF Chief of Programs in North Kivu region in the DRC, and in studios with us, Esther Bitijula, a graduate student in psychology and social work at the Luther College here in the United States. Last but not least, of course, is Ms. Neema Namadamu in South Kivu. She's the founder and director of Hero Women Rising, an NGO empowering women in that region. Be sure to watch this and other episodes of Our Voices on our website at voaafrica.com, where you can also catch up with the latest news and stories from around the globe. Now, on behalf of my co-host and the production team and everyone here at Voice of America, thanks for tuning in. Good day.